Hello, all of you out there listening, wherever you may be. I'm going to bet at home, and I'd be willing to bet a lot of money. Welcome to the Balcony Brew Review. This is episode number 2. I am Larry Hawley. Joining me is Paul M. Banks. Paul, say hi.
Hello.
We are joining you in what we believe is basically week 3 of this pandemic. This is Sunday, March 29th, 2020. If you are a basketball fan, today we would have known, or at this moment, we're taping pretty late at about 10:45. We would know the Final Four. Of course, we do not. That is left into the oblivion atmosphere to figure that out. So that's where we are. Our second podcast during the pandemic, the stay-at-home order, which has been ordered. I don't know if it was ordered, Paul, the last time we talked, but it was ordered, I think, soon after, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was right about that time, yes.
Yeah. So we were about right there when this was all going down. It wasn't the lockdown quarantine I thought it would be, but we've all pretty much been home for about 2 weeks. Paul, how you getting by?
Well, I was kind of in that mode before it happened, and I think that it's going to get extended beyond April 7th, and I hope it does. I think it's better for us. I just couldn't get over what happened with the trails, with the lakefront and all that.
That sucked a lot, but again, I understood it. There really wasn't anything else you could do. Lightfoot had to shut it down. I mean, with how many people were going out there, I wasn't surprised they had to do that. It was painful. I ran so it was that Wednesday night. I was trying to run late at night about 3 times a week, basically going out around like 7:30 and running late. I figure at this point, if I'm ever not going to have anything happen to me, now would be the time. So that last night I went out there and the police had it shut down. Essentially, I don't know what the place is called, but it's like a giant banquet hall located right around Fullerton-ish area. And they had it shut down. It was just really sad because you kind of knew that's going to be the last time it's open. I'd be shocked if it's open before June. I don't know what you think, Paul.
Well, when I read a tweet about somebody saying, "Hey, do you have wine out here?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, no wonder they have to close it because there's people using it just to congregate."
Yeah, there's nothing they could do. I am really hoping and training for the Chicago Bears. I'm really hoping that they will have that open by June 1st. That is my target goal. I don't know if the end of May is not, but the end of April is not realistic. I know the federal stay at home was extended through April 30th. I assume Pritzker will just do the same. They probably were just waiting to see what would happen. That is where we're going to be standing. I would be shocked if we're open before June 1st, but can be hopeful.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and raise your glass, Paul. What do you got tonight?
I've got some Bullet Rye Frontier Whiskey. 95 Bullet 95 Frontier Whiskey, straight American rye. It's, kind of fits into the survivalist motif of which we're recording, and it kind of takes me back to easier times and funner times in January when I was on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky.
Yeah, January, the fun and easier times in our lives. It was only like 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Should be fun. I basically have the same thing. I've just got the Bullet Bourbon. I always call it the orange label. Basically the straight up Frontier whiskey, straight bourbon. As you know, I'm not much of a bourbon guy, but this stuff is pretty good. Usually I have it straight like an ice cube. That's what I'm having it tonight. I haven't really tried to mix it much because I'm not really a good mixer when it comes to drinks, but I guess I could get adventurous. I mean, I've got about half a bottle left, so at some point I ought to, live on the wild side and try to mix it up a little bit.
Well, I drink it with just ice as well, and I've got the green label, which is, I mean, we're not drinking the same exact thing, but we're drinking pretty much the same thing tonight.
Close enough. We don't have to break it down. But yeah, it's still got that hit to it.
Under the circumstances, it's impressive that we've got something even that close.
Yeah, we'll take it at this point. Paul, that thing you brew, let's start with that. What's on your mind? I mean, there's obviously so much on people's minds right now, but what is it that's brewing in your brain at this particular moment?
Well, movies have been a key for me to get through this because, there's no sports, and usually I'm pretty much a sports or a news junkie, and there's only so much you can take of the news because it's all in your face, and you'll know what's going on anyway, and you need a break from it. So I've been watching a lot of movies. Definitely want to watch stuff that was created before this all happened, kind of stuck in that moment of time. I've seen a lot. I've actually watched some apocalyptic movies, which people probably think I'm crazy to do at this point, but not even apocalyptic movies, but I watched 13 Days about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I watched
Fine
um
film.
amazing, yeah. The Otis agrees as he just chimed in.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Tell Otis I say hello.
you want to say something, Otis? Well, I don't know if you picked it up there. He did say something just.
Well,
Oh, well,
now
there you
that I
go.
heard. Yes. I agree. 13 Days is a fine film, Otis. Hope you enjoyed it.
Well, Otis was impressed by the acting work of Kevin Costner, but he didn't care for his Boston accent.
Well, that's a tough one to do, man. I've tried to do that before. Chowder. You're gonna trade Mookie Betts. You might as well just bring Valentine back, make it a true clown show. Just bizarre. It's not good. It's a Boston accent. Needs a lot of work.
Park Harvard Yard.
I parked my car in Harvard Yard. I like the commercial they did. Was it a Sonata? The Honda. I think it was a Sonata.
I parked
That
it.
they. Yeah.
Did
I
you
parked it.
have you ever seen the movie The Adjustment Bureau?
I haven't. In fact, I'm not even really familiar with it.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by this one. I had no idea it flew under the radar so much, but it's a 2011 film in which the main characters are Matt Damon and Emily Blunt, and it's yeah, it just happened to be on HBO. That's the only reason I saw it. It was just playing, and it looked interesting because it's about these gentlemen who work like an FBI or a detective agency or something, and everyone has there's a book of a plan for someone's life. And when people veer off the plan too much or things go awry, these guys who work at the bureau, it's their job to step in and put people back on the direction.
Wow.
So, so yeah, so that part is deep, but there's just one line that to me was very, very poignant where Matt Damon and Emily Blunt keep running into each other. And the first time they were set up to be together, so that was on purpose. But then the plot is they have to be kept apart for society, for mankind's sake, but they keep running into each other and they keep thinking they should be so eventually Matt Damon, is like, why are you stopping me? Like, what is your problem? Like, why are you guys doing this? And the really deep and poignant line is which one of the senior guys of the Adjustment Bureau says, when we were in control, we brought you the Roman Empire. Then we stepped away and we had the Dark Ages. So then we came back and we had the Renaissance, the scientific enlightenment. And so then we stepped away again. And then he quotes 1910, which is interesting, as the date that they went away. And then he cites the World Wars, the Depression, fascism, and then he says, and then the brink of human extinction and the Cuban Missile Crisis. So the moral is that like we can't do enough on our own, so these guys are stepping in to do that.
We might need to call them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I might need to give them a call. That's a heck of a book if it existed. It's interesting. I'll have to watch that. That seems very interesting. Funny you mentioned that, Paul. That thing you brew is actually the movie I did watch on the apocalypse, and about that was Contagion.
Oh, you did watch? Okay.
So I had it on repeat pretty much all day because I watch a movie and then as I work or do stuff during the day, I then just keep something on in the background so I can hear noise. I used to do that with Weather Scan for the Weather Channel because the music would just play in my background. It would just force my head into focus. Contagion I really enjoyed it. I did not realize it was a Soderbergh film, so I enjoy a lot of his films. So naturally, I enjoyed this one. Not giving the plot away, but it's not like you wouldn't expect. It's not like an outbreak It follows similar patterns. It's a little bit more, I wouldn't say real life. I would say maybe more real life than Outbreak because it does follow start to completion. Um, it features society. What's interesting is society in there acts a lot different than it does with this particular one, where society had breakdowns, there was looting, there was riots. That hasn't really happened with this at all. Now, granted, in that movie, that was later on, but there's an interesting scene in it. And again, if you spoilers go away, but there's a point where they quarantine states. Chicago gets quarantined, and they close down the airports, and people start going completely mad. That hasn't really happened here. Now, another thing to remember is the disease that is in that movie is a lot more deadly than this one. So the disease rate for that was 25 to 30%. So it's not total by any means, but you've got a much, you're talking 1 in 4 chance at that point. So it's a little bit different. But I really enjoyed Contagion, and I watched it because I don't want to necessarily isolate myself from what's going on. I'd rather be more informed. And I felt like, I know people haven't watched Outbreak or Contagion, or they're all afraid to. I actually watched Outbreak and then watched Contagion. So I watched them back to back on Friday. I thought the movies were good. I think it points to the same thing that, it's funny. In 2011, the Contagion movie, they say social distancing a couple times. And it's kind of incredible how they say specifically social distancing. It's very unusual. It's incredible. I really hadn't heard much about social distancing before all this began. And there it is in 2011 discussing it. It's interesting to see. I think in that movie, at least for what we've seen right now, so that movie, I think the crisis goes about a year or so. It seems like that people right now are a little bit more calm, and it seems like cooler heads are prevailing right now as compared to the portrait to which that movie presented. So I guess that's encouraging. Again, we haven't had a full lockdown of a city yet, although really, to be honest with you, Paul, what would be more of a lockdown than what we have right now?
Right.
I guess I could, yeah, go ahead.
This isn't a full lockdown, but it's as much of a lockdown as you can have because people need to get food and medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I
you
guess
couldn't.
maybe the restaurants would close. Maybe the CTA would shut down. I think that would be, the airports aren't officially shut. Are they officially shut down?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, so I guess they could officially shut those down, but I think most of the flights aren't going anyway. I guess they could shut the CTA down, but I don't know if you've noticed, Paul, buses. If I'm outside and I see them, there's not a soul on there. They're usually pretty empty.
Well, I just look out the window and all the streets are empty. It's
So
just there's not a soul anywhere. But who is in Contagion and who is in Outbreak, and like what you kind of described Contagion, Outbreak, what's kind of the difference? Like who are the main stars and which one was made in 2011?
The Contagion was made in 2011. Outbreak is 94 or 5. I saw it in 95 for the first time. Dustin Hoffman, Renee Russo, Morgan Freeman, Donald Sutherland is in Outbreak. And then for Contagion, Matt Damon, Lawrence Fishburne. I don't know why, Paul. I feel terrible. I'm blanking. The guy who played Joe. No, excuse me. Never mind. I'm thinking of somebody else. Bryan Cranston is in the film. Who else is in the film? Whoever played in The Dark Knight Rises, I can't think of her name at this point, but she played one of the executives in Wayne Corp and eventually turned against Batman. She was the one who escaped the prison. She plays in the film. Gwyneth Paltrow plays in the film, but she's only in it. She is one of the first victims of the disease. So she's in the beginning and only flashbacks. Well, actually, she's in the beginning, the very end, and then only in flashbacks. So that's what Contagion is. And like a lot of Soderbergh films do, it shifts a lot between characters. So each character kind of gets their moment. Fishburne is pretty prominently featured throughout.
Well, there's one line, and I also wanted to mention from the Adjustment Bureau when Matt Damon's character is a rising politician, and The thing is, they need to make sure he stays on the path because the guy tells him the president cannot be a loose cannon. So apparently Matt Damon had to win because whoever he was up against was not stable and would have won.
Well, sometimes reality and fantasy can intertwine there, but
Well, there you
that's for
go.
another
In
podcast.
2011, they saw it coming.
Yep. And well, we'll see how it develops. So definitely go see it. Contagion's very well done. If you're a Soderbergh fan like I am, you definitely go see it. You'll very much enjoy it.
Go see it, meaning find it on
Yeah,
Netflix.
I kind of always say go see. It's kind of the natural term. It's on Cinemax. It's actually where I had it. I think my plan is Cinemax, but I did. So this is how lazy I become with the remote, and I could put this even in Island of Misfit Toys. With the remote, I don't know where any channels are anymore. I just scream into the remote and it just pops it up. I
Oh,
truly
not
don't know where anything is channel wise. A true first world problem. Might I add?
the very, very first world problem. My Island of Misfit Toys, I've got two actually. They're two kind of mini ones, and the first one is I can't get over how much I'm running the dishwasher. Like I
Interesting.
knew I'd be doing a lot more than usual, but oh my god, all the time.
So define all the time.
Well, for me, I would probably run it maybe like once a week, and now I'm running it every other day.
No, you got to be cleanly. That's understandable. Plus, you're in the apartment more, so dishes are going to get a little bit more dirty.
And then the other thing is, I always have when these people that want to get their links placed and their posts, their sponsored posts done and whatever, they always like would come to me with, "Well, this is urgent. This needs to be done ASAP." And in the salad days and the halcyon days when we were more carefree, I would always sometimes once in a while, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I would write back, this isn't a hospital ER. This isn't urgent. So now this is the first time I've gotten one of these since everything broke out, since the pandemic began, and I just said, given everything that's going on, how could you refer to this as urgent? And the guy actually played along. He said, okay, it's not World Health Organization urgent, but we do have a limited window with this client for getting it placed. I'm like, good
Well,
God.
at least some things have not changed as far. I mean, sometimes it's good. Hey, it hasn't changed. I mean, some things you're going to do. I know somebody got snapped a picture of an influencer hanging from some sort of beam, like in downtown Chicago during it. So at least there's some bit of normalcy. Again, some bit of normalcy.
Well, yeah, we definitely need to have that. Like I watched The Day After Tomorrow, which, although it's an apocalyptic movie, it's such a it to me it's more like just your average blockbuster kind of CGI or special effects movie. But the guy who's manning, well, one of the guys who's manning the atmospheric science station in Scotland, the place where they measure the ocean temperatures, he's watching a Manchester United Celtic Champions League game at the beginning of the movie.
I
So I
remember.
told, and then at the end, do you remember the toast at the end?
I do. When they were deciding whether they should, what was it, Scotch? They were deciding whether they should throw it in the gas, basically essentially the heating gasoline or whatever, to see if they get a couple more hours out of it, or they should drink it. And they chose to drink it. I always found
Right.
that
Yeah.
kind of an interesting choice.
They're like, yeah, maybe it'll run on this. It's alcohol, right?
They just chose to have the Scotch. Now, in theory, that might actually keep them warmer for a couple of hours in the, if they ran the heater a little longer. I don't know. That's going to run out. Maybe that alcohol stays in there longer. I've thought about that. What if the choice is there? Do you drink, or do you throw it in the tank and try to give yourself a few more hours? But
See, I've thought about what if you run out of cleaning products and no one can get them anywhere and you can't buy them? Do you just start disinfecting with that?
I don't know. No, that could be. No, that's the thing. Like, would people riot over toilet paper? Would they riot over Lysol? I mean, these things are readily available. I don't think they're going to run out. I think it's just going to be people hoard them. But
So anyway, the first guy says to England, and then the lead scientist toasts to mankind,
mankind,
and then of course the third guy says to Manchester United.
to
But do you know
Manchester
why?
United.
Do you know why I know we're gonna be fine? Do you know why I
Why?
know everything? Because in that movie, Manchester United are playing Celtic in the Champions League versus in reality, United's last match was at Lask Linz before Austria shut down in the UEFA Europa League. So
We're good to go. There's
exactly.
time left. Every time I watch that movie, I get really cold.
That's understandable.
I get really cold. I always feel like I want to bundle up when I see that movie. That would be worse than a pandemic. We've talked about things that would be worse than a pandemic. A
Oh my God,
meteor,
yeah, an 18-hour ice age or whatever the
yeah. An ice age would be worse than a pandemic because we pretty much would lose. We pretty much would lose everything. No, I don't know. North of Kentucky.
that
You
sounds
know,
about right. That's
yeah. I
kind
mean,
of where
that's
they drew the line there.
we'll add it to the list of worse than an ice age. A meteor speeding toward Earth would be much worse. A meteor the size of Peoria, that wouldn't be cool. We would see our own doom 3 days before it would hit.
That would be the
That would
worst.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
because
no
you have
bunker
it
that
in
would
your
take that
face the
out.
whole time.
Yeah, that would not be good. Fighting a bear in the woods alone with no weapon would be worse.
Years ago, I saw on the Sci-Fi Channel or some kind of science channel where they had like legit scientists. They mapped out what an alien invasion would be and how it
Oh
would
God,
go.
man, I've had nightmares about that. No alien invasion. That would be much worse. That's up there with meteor.
Well, it was interesting. They got in detail about, well, first they'd knock out our power and then they would try this and then they'd be like, well, now we've got to get our hands dirty, so we've got to go down there to Earth, we've got to fight them and yeah, that would
Yeah, we alien invasion's right up there with meteor.
I would agree with that.
Oh, there's one other. What was the other one I had? So we've a meteor, alien invasion, fighting a bear,
Fighting a bear? How did we
fighting a
get
bear in the
on
woods.
that?
Things that are worse, like fighting a bear. I was trying to think what are things worse. I was trying to cheer
That
somebody up.
bear's not an apocalypse.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of bad situations. What a Yeah, but I was trying to think. Super global warming wasn't it Highlander? It's super global warming, or I forget. I've only seen parts of Highlander. There was something
Famine's the
happened to the
worst.
ozone layer, burned away, so the Earth was cooking. I can't imagine that would be pleasant either.
I would say famine and starvation is the worst.
Hmm. So there are things that could be worse, and but people at least have been receptive to stay in, at least around here. I know the lakefront was crowded that one day, but unlike Contagion, people are staying calm, and I think they probably will be for now because, as we said before, we're pretty much already locked down anyway. We just might not be able to go take a walk or anything like that. Should it get shut down even more?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, some countries have done that, but again, you need food, you need medicine, you need the essentials, and you can't. I mean, you'd have to have a cop on every single corner to enforce that.
Is so that's probably why. I mean, Italy, I think, has had the same thing. I think you can go outside. I think you can go to the store. You can go to the doctor. You can go to the pharmacy. I think they even said like bakeries are still open, and then that's about it. And you got to
And
have
Italy had the
papers to
same
go in.
problem. People were going to the beaches.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe a full lockdown would go on. It seems like the next 2 to 3 weeks are going to be the roughest part of it. So we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah, I think,
Paul.
like you had said before, um, what's the expression you use? Lock in, batten down the hatches.
Oh, dig in from from
Dig in,
from uh,
that's it.
from Backdraft. I'm gonna watch Backdraft. I have it for free on demand. Maybe that's a movie I'll watch now. Love Backdraft. But there, for those who haven't watched it, there's an early scene in the movie where Kurt Russell's taking them into a pretty ferocious warehouse fire. They don't have any backup because of firehouse cuts. That's one of the underlying themes of the entire film. And they are like,
So people on the front lines not having the supplies and services
yeah, I
they
know.
needed, huh?
Wow.
Can't
Well,
imagine that happening in real life.
yeah, I know. 1991. They foretold it in 1991, 20 years before Contagion. Anyway, basically, Kurt Russell's character goes, "No, we're not leaving. Dig in." They kind of look at him weird, and he goes, "Dig in," and then they dig in. A pretty ferocious warehouse fire with textiles, which I don't know a lot about firefighting, but it's all bad. Either way.
Kind of along those lines, how come it's like Chicago Fire, Chicago, how come all like the disaster and first responder shows on network TV are all set here?
Maybe they've done too many in New York. I mean, New York, you know, you're not going to beat Rescue Me for New York. They did NYPD Blue. That's kind of tapped out.
Yeah,
LA,
like I've always said, pop music, I think we've written enough songs about California and New York.
yeah, so they need somewhere else to go. They come to Chicago. Third biggest, I believe it's third biggest city. Third biggest TV market. I don't know. I would think it had to be the third biggest city, but
Well,
you
you've
never
heard my
know.
theory about the late 70s, early 80s Midwestern smaller city sitcom boom.
Mm-hmm. Trying to
You
remember
had
which
you had Family Ties set in Columbus, WKRP in Cincinnati.
Natty,
You had One Day at a Time set in Indianapolis.
Laverne and Shirley, Milwaukee.
Yep. Mary
Although I
Tyler
think they were in
Moore.
Milwaukee 5 minutes to film it, but
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a Mary Tyler Moore statue in Minneapolis, so that was another
yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm. I guess
Well,
that's just where they went at that point.
good old Heartland.
Oh, who else was? I'm trying to think. Well, Punky Brewster was in Chicago, of course, and there's nobody who defeats Punky Brewster.
Family Matters, too.
Yep, Family Matters is there.
Perfect Strangers.
Yep.
But I've got something fun for one more sip. Are you ready for one more sip?
I am. I will get my Island of Misfit Toys for another day is going to be Instagram unfollows, but I need a whole another like mindset to do that. Let's go to one more sip, Paul.
All right, save that for next time because Instagram unfollows is something we can all relate to. So we'll do that
Mm-hmm.
for the next Island of Misfit Toys.
Mm-hmm.
I did some teleconferences because now with no press conferences or media availability, the reoccurring topic is how do you stay in shape? How do you work out? And it's interesting, like on John Calipari's press conference, he talked about the NBA draft and he's like, yeah, of course none of the guys at Kentucky, they don't have a basketball court in their house. They don't have a home gym. So he got into like, do sit-ups, push-ups, running in place. But the real interesting stuff came with the Illini football had a couple different players on Monday. Then Friday they had head coach Levy Smith, and then they had the strength and conditioning coach Lou Hernandez. And this is where the fun really started because then all the reporters are talking about these videos you see on Twitter with Doug Kramer pushing a pickup truck, Alex, the offensive lineman. I'm sure I
Yep.
butcher his last name. He was pulling a Jeep, and then in the next tweet, his dad is pulling a Jeep, bench pressing tires. I mean, the Hernandez, the strength coach, said it best. He said, "Can you find a sledgehammer in the garage to swing?"
I saw that. I got to listen to that whole thing. That was actually a Mike Allstott thing. I think Allstott used to push his van up when he was over at Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel, I believe. I don't want to butcher that.
Julia
Obviously,
Catholic.
Was he a Joliet Catholic guy? I
Julia
always keep.
Catholic. I can confirm that.
I was gonna say I always kind of forget with Allstott. So sorry to the Joliet Catholic people. There was, I remember he did it. Obviously, Purdue superstar, super legend, and eventual Super Bowl champion. Fine running back. I remember he did that. Used to be the legend in high school. Is he did like the van pushes. any way you can do it, man. It's not a bad idea. I've seen some other people doing the van stuff. Glad to see the Illini getting some work in. It's funny, they had 328 the other day for the March 28th. They were doing it because it was the Michigan State score, as it would read on the bottom of it. I thought that was great. Remembering back to that bowl clinching win just made me so happy. It just seemed, I don't know about you, Paul. Everything seems like 30 years ago now. Do you feel the
Yeah,
same?
it really, really does.
That'll be my. Go ahead.
I can't believe 3 months ago people got all bent out of shape about a stationary bike ad, and then those of us who didn't had the time and energy to make fun of those who did, and now today we all wish we freaking had one.
It's amazing, and it's incredible. I mean, that Illini victory, it seems like about a year ago. That's kind of how I would describe it. And I've been thinking about it, how much. One of the things I weigh for these kind of situations, you're always curious as to how you will be affected from here on out. What things will
Right.
matter and what things won't matter. And the thing I'm finding out is you don't get perspective quickly. Some of the same things that went through my mind 2 and 3 weeks ago when the world was different still go through my mind now, even with the perspective. It, as I kind of said, now I'm going to get all philosophical here. I'm curious how, as you go through this, how perspective will change. We'll be excited to finally have this podcast when we're sort of free again. I would say free would be like where social distancing is kept more to a minimum. How perspective changes after that. When we start to see the real numbers of people infected and the real number of deaths of people affected. When people we hear of, celebrities, have been affected negatively, not necessarily by death, but even serious illness, kind of pop up. But I've been kind of thinking about how this will put things into perspective. And it's kind of been toying with my mind a little bit because still we talked about Instagram follows. People I know unfollowed me on Instagram. And I was really upset about it last Tuesday. I even texted you, Paul, I think at about 11 o'clock at night. And I'm really interested to see like how things do change. And if I can take this time and we all can take this time to find ways to be better people moving forward, forward being the key word, finding ways to be able to be better people because of this and be able to shed the things that really, really don't matter. I'm really interested to see how this will go. We're only about realistically 2 weeks in. We said week 3 because I'm basically looping in that first week starting on the Wednesday. I'm very interested to see how perspective changes and how myself and other people can be better. So don't mean to bring it too philosophical for one last sip, but that was going through my mind a lot today in the last couple of days.
Well, the thing I would say about that is I've had some Instagram unfollows myself, which were very surprising. And my kind of reaction to that was, well, yeah, we're upset, and yeah, it's trivial in the grand scheme of things. But then I thought, I'm like, who are these people? Why would you even bother to do it? Like, why waste your time on that?
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. Again, this is another interesting thing to touch on for the next one, but mine's in a little bit of a weird place right now. I think some people are like that too, where you're kind of balancing what reality is. You have the initial like, wow, this is happening, and you kind of adjust. Now you kind of settle down a little bit. What do you do for workouts? What do you do every day to improve yourself? It's an interesting time.
Well,
Really interesting time.
I was really impressed that Josh Bebe, our favorite name to say, the
Hmm.
Illini wide receiver who had a breakout, he's got a video where he's jumping on top of garbage cans, and I guess the palm trees in the background kind of add to the effect of it. And then there was another guy carrying 24 packs of bottled water on each shoulder, and he's doing single leg squats to carry them. So,
Yeah. We all find
um,
ways. Inventor Bebe is probably the best Illini offensive player since Aurelius Ben, by the way. Is my tidbit.
I would go with
He's
that, sure.
he's fantastic. That's a heck of a find. Hell of a player.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with being deeply philosophical. It's the time for it.
Yeah. But that's how I've been feeling. We'll see how it evolves. Paul, as always, thank you, man.
Good times. Yeah, let's do this again next week.
We shall. That's the Balcony Brew Review, episode 2. Not in lockdown, just in isolation. Stay at home. Again, be well, be positive, and for the love of God, stay at home. Take care and cheers.
Cheers.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I think this turned out really well.
Yeah, let me stop the recording real quick.